What's up, everybody? I'm Marcus D'Angelo, and I'm joined by my slapdick brother of WrestleZone.com. He is the one and only. There's probably a few like him. Let's face it. It's Dominic D'Angelo, and we are two. I hate this part of the podcast. Two Dynamite Dudes with attitude. And we are here to fill all of your needs when it comes to information regarding AEW Dynamite. Dominic, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Christmas is right around the bend here. Marcus, you're very lackadaisical, it seems, with my gifts. I'm very upset about that. I
can't control USPS, Dom. If it were up to me, I'd be out there hitting them all with the old attitude adjustment.
The old FU, if you will.
That's right. They need it, but hey, 'tis the season, so let's try to be nice to each other this week. Dom, what do you say?
We can make an effort. Is the AEW Draft, is that going to get contentious tonight?
Absolutely. Your draft sucks.
Mine
has been tremendous.
You motherfucker.
As evidenced by your poll that you finally posted.
Yeah, well, hey, you know what? We'll get to that, and I have a little bit of an exception to take with these Twitter users here.
I knew you'd have a fucking excuse. So let's go ahead and talk about AEW Dynamite. And we'll start it off with a title defense. Dominic, Kenny Omega defended his title for the very first time since his major win against Jon Moxley. And he defended it for no good reason against Joey Janela. Just zero reason. Like, what has Janela done to earn this shot? I don't think he's won one match in Dynamite. On Dynamite, rather.
Maybe one, like way back when, but yeah, he. That's a good point. I didn't even look at it that way, but yeah, he doesn't. The bad boy hasn't done really anything to earn that shot.
Doesn't make any sense. I don't. I've got it on my notes. I don't think he's a very good worker either. The more I watch him, the more I just don't like what he does. So to me, I mean, the whole thing, just why do you think he was the right choice for Dynamite, national television, Kenny Omega's first title defense? Why is it Joey Janela?
The case I could make is that they fought each other once on Dynamite before in like some sort of hardcore match, and that was a good main event. That they did those months and months ago or whatever when we had live crowds and everything. So I think that maybe stood out. But other than that, there's like not a really reason to have Janela, wrestle like that, or be in that position.
I understand that you don't want to give away a marquee matchup.
Yeah.
So that's smart, but make it a non-title match then. Janela's just a jabroni, theoretically. So why should he have a title shot over somebody like Cody or Lance Archer, or pick a human being?
Somebody who's like your ranking system kind of thing.
Exactly. And by the way, Dominic, another thing I wanted to mention, I said before that I don't think Janela is a very good worker. Like, who the hell trained this guy? At one point during that table spot outside the ring, he landed with his ass on Omega's face. Like, it looked like it sucked to take that spot. So he just like dropped his ass on him. And then probably the most egregious thing I've seen on national television in a wrestling capacity in quite a while is Janela took the V trigger and he stuck both of his arms and his legs up in the air. Like it's like when you shoot a raccoon or something and they just go like super rigid. Not that I've ever shot a raccoon. I love raccoons. But like you'll see like little critters, like whenever they get hit by a car or they get shot or whatever happens, they just like turn super rigid. And Janela, that little critter, he got rigid, and it was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen.
You mean when he sold it, like on the ground, he's like his hands and arms are up, or
he sold the V trigger with both arms up in the air, so he's flat on his back. Both arms are up in the air, and I'm not going to do the legs, but both legs were also up in the air, like just straight up pointing, and that was how he sold the V trigger.
He took two V triggers at the end, though, correct?
So this was the one I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is the one that he took right before he got the one-winged angel, and it was the finish. But it was dumb. Just amateur hour bullshit.
Let me get your thoughts on this then real quick. When a wrestler gets like nailed, like I've seen Road Dogg do this, I've seen other wrestlers do this. When they like get hit with the move. Say, example, rock bottom. The Road Dogg gets rock bottom. He'll lay there for a second, and then his body will like twitch up. Do you take exception to that?
I do not. Like that's almost like it looks like a reflex. Mm-hmm. That's not normal human behavior to take a savage blow. And then,
Marcus, now have you ever taken a V trigger?
I've not taken a V trigger. I've been struck very, very hard though in my life on many numerous occasions. So like, look, when
one cannot control what the body does when it gets hit with a tremendous blow.
When you're watching boxing, you'll see a dude get knocked out, and he'll maybe have like one arm in like a very rigid, weird position where it's like, okay, that you can like look at that and be like, that dude is knocked out. I can tell because that's not a normal way for somebody to leave their arm in that position. Uh-huh. He's just actually, you know who did it was that guy from the Dark Order, John Silver's partner. What's his name?
Alex Reynolds.
So if you go back and watch that match where he took that knee off the splash on the top rope and he got knocked silly, he did something like that where he had like he had one arm up or something like that in a very rigid position.
I remember we talked about that actually. I think.
Right, and when I saw it, I was like, oh, he's knocked out. Mm-hmm. But so Janela, the way that he did it, it was just too hokey. And Dominic, if you keep defending this, I will.
I'm not. Hey, listen, motherfucker. I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm playing Keanu Reeves here. Okay, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, well, go find a different hill to die on because Joey Janela. I'm not
dying on. I'm just saying, you never got hit by a V trigger. I never got hit by a V trigger. Listen, I could, for all I know, my hand would just be like here, and I wouldn't know where the fuck I'm at. I'm not saying it's the right way to do. I think if I saw it, but look back and I saw it, I'm sure it was ridiculous. But I'm just saying, like, hey, none of us got hit by it.
It was absurd, and that's why guys like Joey Janela are going to remain exactly where they are on AEW Dynamite's roster. He's never going to be anything above a mid-card guy because he works like a jabron, dropping his ass on people's faces like he's fucking Mabel in 1995. And
there was a Men on a Mission reference that night.
There was, and that was part of my tie-in. Damn it, Dominic, you ruined my tie-in.
I'm really screwing you over.
But you know, it's probably for the best that you shut me up, just because you know I was about to go off on Joey Janela. I'm sure he's a lovely human.
I've interviewed him a couple times, and he's a very nice person.
I'm sure he's really nice. I don't want anybody to not make money or not make a living, but like I don't want to see that shit on my TV. You know, I tune into pro wrestling because I'm a fan of pro wrestling, not because I like community theater. So I hope that they learn to knock that off.
We are community theater participants.
Not since I was in high school, Dominic, and there's a good reason.
Lies. Weren't you in Carousel after high school? Or were you still in high school?
You just shut the hell up. So Dominic,
at the end of that match, all over.
Well, you know what? I was gonna make a transition, but I decided to change my mind. I was gonna talk about the end of that match. But Dominic, let's talk about the one of the matches that preceded it.
Well, shouldn't we talk about the end of the match before we move on?
Well, I guess so. I suppose we can tie it back. But okay, so Pac comes out at the end of the match, and he looks like he wants to start something with Kenny Omega. I remember that they had a little thing going on before Pac had to go on his little leave of absence due to COVID. But here's my question, Dominic: who is Pac feuding with?
Whoever he wants.
But so you've got him feuding with two other heels, right? He's feuding with Lance Archer and Eddie Kingston. And then it's like, hey, you know who else he could feud with as a heel himself? How about another heel, Kenny Omega? It's like, look, I want to see the Pac Omega thing happen. It's been coming to a head for a very long time. I'm ready to see it happen. But again, it's what if I have two bullies and they get into a fist fight, I'm not rooting for either one of the bullies. I'm rooting for them to kill each other.
Wait, are you saying Pac's a heel right now?
Is he not?
He's not a heel. He's a babyface.
Are you sure?
Absolutely.
Because he's still doing heelish things.
How? He's coming out and saving his buddies?
He's trying to intimidate women at ringside?
Marcus, come on. That's something that's happened, though, with wrestlers throughout the ages. Like, if you have a heel valet coming out and doing some nefarious shit, there's going to be some controversy, like some confrontation between the babyface male against this heel female. It's just that Marcus, you can't quantify that. This is pro wrestling, Marcus. How long have you watched this shit?
Dominic, I don't recall many baby faces attempting to like come close to and intimidate any females, whether or not they are.
I don't know which
heels.
products you've been watching, because that's been happening through years on end.
Give me an example, Dominic, please. The floor is yours.
Let's see here. I'm looking through my Rolodex mentally, and I don't need to give it to you because I know it fucking exists, okay? So there you go.
No, please. I mean, you seem
No,
very
I don't
sure
need
about
to give
this.
examples because I know this shit has happened. I am not playing into your your mind games here.
If you're so sure, then just give us an example.
I don't
and
need
we can
to.
Put it to bed.
I'm that sure that I don't need to give you examples.
Well, I can say that too. I'm that sure that I've never seen it.
Boom, wrong.
Look,
Listen,
man, it's as you and I have discussed before. We need. I like black and white. When it comes to pro wrestling, black and white and overt and obtuse are the right things to do. I don't need shades of gray in people. I want to know exactly who's a heel. I want to know exactly who's a baby face, and I want to see them build to an angle with each other. I don't care that Lance Archer came out and did a save before Dominic. Does that make him a baby face now?
not quite. No. But
aside from that, he hasn't been acting like one.
No, I agree with that. But I mean, I think there's a point too that's not another first. Like there could still be that thing where like Lance is aligning with these guys and then it maybe turns on them ultimately, it's just a matter of, the progress, waiting for the story to develop. Now, are you, as far as Pac is concerned, are you just using this as a criticism, or do you not really see him as a babyface right now? Like, you bought him as a babyface though, right? Or is this?
I don't see him as a babyface. Like, to me, he's
like
not
legitimately, one. Or is it just like from a critiquing standpoint? Do you know what I'm saying?
Like, I think that they want him to be a babyface. Maybe I suppose, and maybe Pac is just still working like a heel. But like, I'm having a hard time seeing it.
I don't know where you're coming from. This is like, I think it's pretty clear cut. He's a babyface.
Tell me, how has he established himself as a babyface?
He helps the Lucha Brothers. The Lucha Brothers have been specifically Ray Phoenix was positioned as a babyface throughout like his angle with Eddie Kingston and stuff. And so he played like the guy that was unfortunate and got hurt and all that stuff. And then, Eddie like was trying to dismiss him, and then Penta came out and finally saved him. So I think those guys, you're positioned as baby faces against Eddie Kingston. And then you have Pac as the Death Triangle leader come and run into the save. I think that just firmly establishes him as a baby face. I don't really think it's that complicated, like as a story to kind of break apart, honestly. Like from my perspective, it's pretty damn clear. I think Pac is a babyface in this.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it's his delivery and promos. Maybe it's like his ring presence and what he does at ringside.
Is it wishful thinking on your part for him to stay heel?
I would like to see him be a heel, but at the same time, I like Kenny Omega better as a heel. And I've been wanting to see these two have their feud, and I'm all on board for the feud, Dominic. Even if I'll suspend my disbelief and say that that Pac is a babyface now. Then okay, fine. Let's focus in on that. Then why does he have to be feuding with two other heels at the same time? And by the way, that's very inconclusive. Like he's feuding with Eddie Kingston while also feuding with Lance Archer. And hey, let's throw in Kenny Omega.
He's not feuding with Lance Archer.
Are you sure? Because like, isn't that there was like
a little bit? I see what you're saying. There was a little bit of like, yeah, I get you that part. I think it just opens the opportunity up to create some strings of storytelling throughout the process. We'll get one before the other, and I think they'll all get addressed at some point. To go back to your budding feud about like this ongoing feud between Pac and Kenny, they had that match, and Kenny lost. Kenny was the babyface, and he lost via like KO submission.
And that's a problem with modern day wrestling, Dom, is that like to me that feud is not over. To me that feud should not be over.
It probably isn't, and that's why they're presenting it.
And that's what I'm saying. So just like Omega and Moxley, to me that feud is still an ongoing. They still hate each other. It's an ongoing feud. It was the same thing with Pac, And yeah, and I think I just put my finger on why to me Pac is still a heel. It's like he's got this very vicious edge to him, and maybe it's just his style as a wrestler, but he's got like this real viciousness. He's like very like he's like a little time bomb. He's always like ready to just blow up on somebody.
Unpredictable.
Exactly. And so to me, those are heelish things. I will say that like, again, that image of him trying to intimidate a woman at ringside, to me, that's always a heelish move for a dude.
Sure. Ultimately, if that's something that keeps getting, I'll say that. Yeah. If that's not, but if you do it minor here and there, it'll be like, okay, yeah, normally a good guy would not do something like that. But, from a wrestling perspective or an outlaw wrestling rebellious kind of perspective, you can kind of buy into it happening here and there. And then like, okay, as long as it's not a consistent thing and the guy ultimately doesn't hit the woman or something like that, then you can really buy into it. But
what I remember from back in the day when a heel female manager would be on the outside interfering with a match, the male would go to the outside of the ring and try to turn her away or be appealing to the referee to get her out of the ring, and then he'd turn around and he'd get hit by her guy. Like she was there as a distraction.
I think part of what you play into too as a babyface, you don't want to look like a moron. So like if you get played by that heel valet, like whether you're doing the honorable thing or not, you kind of look like an idiot. So, I mean, there's certainly that balance of like not being an abusive, mean person, but also not being a moron when it comes to like your awareness of the situation, what's going on. So I think you really it's a tough thing, I think, to kind of do, but there's definitely ways to go about it. And, I don't think, from what I remember him like kind of intimidating whoever it was it the bunny he was doing it to, I guess? Yes. Well, Jezebel, so established Jezebel. So it's not like a really eyebrow raising thing, but there's a definitely way to go about it too. So.
And like I said, it's fine to have words with a female heel on the outside. It's fine to appeal to the referee to get her away from you. It is, to me, it's not a babyface move to get like an inch away from her face and be looking like there's potential that he might get physical with her. So I know that this is modern wrestling, and men and women tend to lock it up every once in a while in the ring. But that the context.
But it also being modern wrestling too. There's to your point, somebody a dude getting in the face of a woman like that is eyebrow raising in itself, even more so in today's day and age than even like 30 years ago. But both.
And by the end of the podcast, I hope that you come up with an example from when you've seen that.
Oh, I don't need to. I'm well aware of it. I mean, honestly, you watch ECW. I mean, you're gonna get some way out of the ordinary one because of that shit happening. Like more so pile driving the valet or something like that. So.
Do you have anything else to say about the Eddie Kingston stuff? Eddie Kingston is the best promo in the business. I'm not crazy about what's going on with him right now as far as like this very inconclusive feud situation.
I think it's primarily going to be is him and Pac. I think that's where it's going to go because Kenny, you're right. Kenny has this thing going with Mox still, I believe. And I think that's going to be a big focus once Moxley gets back in the mix. Let me say, I guess before we move on from Kenny real quick, he pulled a little bit of a Rock I Quit match from '99 with the live mic and being on the mic. What did you think of that whole dynamic of it?
That was not good. I think Kenny was like, he's one of those guys that can either chew gum or walk. Like he can't do both at once. He's very good at each one individually, but like, yeah, he's not capable of like conceiving anything entertaining while he's in the middle of a match. So like he was trying, you could tell, but he was too focused on what he was doing in the ring to actually say anything that was even mildly entertaining while he was on the mic. Whereas The Rock, The Rock was incredibly entertaining while on the mic, while wrestling. So was Booker T, by the way, if you remember Booker T. This was
T when he did it.
This was TNA, I believe, where Booker T, he was like in the ring stomping on somebody, and he was like on the mic, because he was doing a commentator thing, and then he came to the ring, and so he was still being a commentator while he was like whooping somebody's ass. Like that was super entertaining. When Kenny did it, it was like when he put down the mic, I was excited. I was like thankful that awkward moment was over.
How did you think Don Callis did, like as the live commentator?
Don Callis is good. He's really good on the mic. He's great in his role as Kenny's like manager, mentor, uncle, whatever you want to call him.
Uncle Donnie.
Yeah, so exactly. I like Don Callis a lot in his role. I like him paired with Kenny Omega. I hope that they don't piss with that handing Omega a live mic while he's working anymore.
I think maybe that plays to why maybe they had Janela in this match too, is so you could give Kenny an opportunity like that against an opponent that's like, if he's talking shit to say, let's just say Pac, then and he's doing that, then it downplays Pac a little bit. You can kind of get away with
well, so you shouldn't be able to kick the crap out of somebody while speaking on a microphone. Like it's you shouldn't be able to do that to a capable opponent. So I see your point where somebody like Janela is not a capable opponent, so it makes more sense for Omega to be whooping on him.
But from the world title perspective, it's a little
make it a non-title match for crying out loud.
Yeah, make it like an AEW Eliminator match, and that's still the title did not need to be on the line for this. I agree with you there. So,
hey, by the way, I'm glad that you just said Eliminator because it's a good transition to the next thing I want to talk about, and that is the originally supposed to be a 14-man tag match that was cut down to a 6-man tag match. I wish that they would have done it elimination style. To me, doing it the Survivor Series style makes it less of a schmoz, and makes it a little bit easier to focus as you whittle it down to these remaining few. So I wish that they would have done it that way. But I guess I'm kind of bearing the lead, Dominic. What happened with Brand Cutler? Why was he all of a sudden, after possibly having some contentious remarks directed toward an executive in the company, why was he eliminated from this match?
That's a great question. I was gonna ask that too when you were talking about this. Is like, if you don't know the story, JR, was it on JR's podcast? He said this, I believe.
No, I think he was just being interviewed.
Okay, so JR, who we really appreciate that he's candid and critical of the product, like that. I think a great deal of wrestlers probably in AEW and outside of AEW appreciate that fact that he does a lot of that speak to power, but also is diplomatic and still loves the job and what he does. So, but he was critical of the taking these spots and flying out of the ring and being them so telegraphed and orchestrated and everything like that, where they don't make sense for the wrestler to do or a wrestler to do or a group of wrestlers to partake in. So he was critical of it. And, Brandon Cutler, who Marcus and I interviewed way back on our previous podcast. We both like him a lot and stuff like that, but he was a real
gentleman, good guy, professional.
Really, absolutely. And still is. I've talked to him since then too, but he goes and goes back and obviously puts that out.
Kind of takes a shot at JR, a little bit makes fun of it, because JR said everybody, and by the way, it's been misquoted.
I know Coils, but it's Quails.
It's Quails, yeah. But he says friend and foe stand shoulder to shoulder and wait for some leaping idiot to come over the top rope, and it just doesn't make any sense. Nobody ever wins with the move. And then so Brand Cutler in his tweet said something to the effect of hey, come watch Dynamite where friend and foe will stand shoulder to shoulder and wait for some leaping idiot. Just basically taking a shot, kind of making fun of JR a little bit, being a little bit disrespectful. And I know that a member of FTR, Dax, certainly took issue with it. A few people took issue with it. Darby Allin said that he was on JR's side and agreed with him.
Dude, when I interviewed Darby Allin, that was what was so cool about him, is he's I dive to hurt people. That's what he was getting at. And his coffin drop makes total sense of that. If you get hit with that coffin drop, that looks like it fucking hurts, one way or the other. So it's I certainly think, there's when you can do those spots are very rare, and in between we see them way too much, and not just on Dynamite, we just see them all across the board in wrestling altogether. So but I've also seen those spots make sense, but it's very rare when they do make sense and when things come together for that. Like, so it's like more often than not, it's not worth doing. And I think JR makes a very solid and knowledgeable point that it's contradictory to what you want to convey as a wrestling product to give it that sports-like feel. You're not going to get that doing that shit. It's just not happening. And I understand the aspect that you want to stand out and it's a moment, especially in front of maybe a live crowd and stuff like that. But time and time again, we see it all the time, and it's desensitized. It's white noise, and it's ultimately, JR just makes a way valid point about it. And who knows? Wardlow was out of the match due to a family issue. So
and that's, it's fun to make a story out of this because it is ironic timing.
It is.
But the fact is, they were down one member on the Inner Circle side. So who does it make the most sense to eliminate from the match? It certainly wouldn't make sense to eliminate Griff Garrison or Brian Pillman because they're a tag team. It really only makes sense to eliminate Brand Cutler. So I'm sure, the cynic in me wants to say like bullshit, but I'm sure that this is all on the level and it's just happenstance.
It just happens, and you're going to get different opinions in a pro wrestling promotion, and it's a matter of working cohesively and kind of being on the same page, or at some points or other, like not going along to get along, but just agreeing to disagreeing. But it's also ultimately, I think the majority of people that are really, really big fans of wrestling will probably see to JR's point. I certainly do.
And look, I really like Brand Cutler, and I have respect for him. But JR, he's correct. You and I have discussed it many times on the show. Mm-hmm. He also mentioned that something like a DDT or a super kick, why is that not a finish anymore? And it makes sense. He even said do these people nowadays deliver a DDP better than Jake the Snake or Arn Anderson? No. Do the Young Bucks deliver better super kicks than Shawn Michaels? No. So it doesn't make sense, and it's like a snake eating its own tail, right? Like they're doing interesting things, but they're hurting themselves as they do it.
Right.
So it's an unfortunate situation. It's one that I hope gets rectified following this little controversy.
I don't think but to our point again, though, it's interesting to talk about, but we don't know if it's a controversy or not. But we also it's the timing is weird. And, I really like Brandon Cutler a lot. And I feel like he's, a great person and a good wrestler ultimately too. So it's and I want to see somebody like him flourish too in the business. But it's just it's a kind of new school, old school mindset. And I'm just more on the side of the old school mindset in this case,
I agree. So, Dominic, I think another thing that you and I can both agree on is going to be the quality of the match between Kazarian and Daniels against the acclaimed Max Caster and his partner, whose name is escaping me for no good reason.
Anthony Bowens, whose birthday is today. Yes.
Oh, it is such a heel move on my part to forget his name. I like Anthony Bowens. Nothing personal, Anthony. If you're listening to this, I think you're great. I think the acclaimed is great. They put them over, which is tremendous. They put them over the right way. They had a reasonable way for them to cheat in the match.
A boombox, perfect.
There was a great Men on a Mission reference from Frankie Kazarian, who did a little rap battle sort of a situation, and he actually did pretty well. I got to give it up.
I was like, oh man, how's this going to go? And then he really did a very, very, very good job at it.
Absolutely. He may have done better than the initial Max Caster.
I agree.
Rap.
I think he beat him in the first round.
But Max Caster's rap at the end was tremendous. He did a great job when he was rapping on the Bucks. Dude, Max Caster, I said it before, I'll say it again. That kid is a star. I think he's got a very, very high ceiling in the pro wrestling business. And his dad used to play for the Jets.
How about that? People could look at that any way they want to nowadays, but, the Jets there, if it's back in the day, I don't know what time era he was around.
70s.
Was it 70s? So like around the New York Sack Exchange / the green, Wayne Corbett style jersey. So that's not that bad in certain ways. But no, it's I definitely made note of that. And JR always makes notes of the football teams. So no, Marcus, I still will heavily criticize you for casting him as the MVP on a show he was never even fucking on. But I do definitely see major star power in those two guys. And I think the dynamic between those two, like Caster with the rap and the condescending stuff, and the presence combined with the ring work of Anthony Bowens. And I like, this is such a maybe like a weird thing to bring up, but I really like his voice. Like, it's just like he's got a pro wrestler voice.
Anthony Bowens or Max Caster?
Anthony Bowens does.
I agree. I gotta say, I would really prefer to see Bowens as a babyface, and as a singles. I think he would do better in that setting. He's a little bit green on the mic, so I can see why they paired him with Max Caster, who's like really good on the mic. Because Bowens comes off a little bit awkward on the mic, but he's got such a great physique, great look. He's the sort of guy who, if you paired him with a really good old school manager, he would really flourish as a baby face. And by the way, Max Caster, I know he's a controversial figure, but who would make a great tag team partner for him? I can't think of anybody who would make a better tag team partner for him than Enzo Amore. That would be quite something to see.
I don't know about that. I don't know. I like where they're positioned. I don't, I think this is a great spot. If you even think Bowens is like going to be a great babyface, I think the perfect spot to have him start off at is as a heel. And you just get the basis for don't put a lot of pressure on him to try to get himself over with the crowd to that extent, but have him do exactly what you had him do on Wednesdays, like talk a little bit on the mic, show a little bit of personality, show what he can do in the ring. Obviously, you're going to see his physique and how he looks and everything like that. So that's already there. You already got the foundation there. But you pair somebody up with like a obnoxious asshole like Max Caster is being portrayed as. I think this is what you want. As Bowens, this is what you want. Obviously, you can always bring him into like a babyface role sometime down the line and set him up for that. I think this is really the perfect thing, and I wouldn't fuck with anything. I like Enzo, and I like his personality and stuff. Those two personalities being together, I think it could be very abrasive, honestly, if you did something.
Let me justify myself for a minute, and then we'll see if I change your mind. I think the Max Caster, Bowens, I think could be a star in and of his own right, but Max Caster,
sure, yeah, I agree.
He's got such a big personality, such a great look, and his physique is he looks like he could have been a pro athlete himself. He's got this very tall, lean, but very muscular type of body type. He looks like an NFL tight end, just like his dad was. And so between that, his look and his spiel, I think he's going to very easily outshine Bowens. Whereas if you put him with somebody who's also a huge personality like Enzo, it's that could be fun, because I feel like those two would constantly be trying to outdo themselves or outdo one another as they're doing their promos, or they're doing their rap battles, or whatever it is that they do. And to me, that would be just a match made in heaven. Whereas Bowens would flourish with somebody, somebody like an Arn Anderson as his manager. So I see your point as well. Regardless, you and I are both arguing the same point. These guys are great, and high ceiling in AEW.
Absolutely. I liked, and then just working with SCU, I think was great. And, I liked that, the juxtaposition between those two teams. I thought it was put off very well. So,
All right. Well, let's move on to a little women's action. We had a couple pretty cool segments for the women on this one. Thunder Rosa gave a really nice promo, trashing trashing Britt Baker. In comes Rebel or Reba or whatever her name is, and
Rebel.
she does
but yeah, Reba,
Rebel, not Reba.
Yeah.
She came in and did the distraction, allowing Britt Baker to come in and do the run-in. To me, I truly believe that this is going to be the best that we will get to see to this point of Britt Baker. If anybody, and this is not me trashing Britt Baker, this is just me putting over Thunder Rosa. If anybody can shine somebody or make them look like elevate them even further, it's Thunder Rosa. So it's going to be cool to see those two go head to head. And what else is cool about it, Dominic, is who goes over. If you're Tony Khan, if you're AEW, do you put over Thunder Rosa, who's a major star and inarguably the most talented female probably in the world? Do you put her over, or do you put over your established AEW star?
I think you put over Thunder Rosa because she is your AEW star, even though she's not AEW technically yet, because she is a baby face. Britt Baker is a heel. So, I mean, if she does chicken shit stuff, Thunder Rosa can get away with just beating your ass and like in a good match, in a competitive match. But yeah, I think you put Thunder Rosa. I don't think it's really too much of a question. Because Britt is already over, and she can further get herself over, as she showed in that segment too, at the end, her condescending line at the end and everything like that. All that stuff presents itself for heelishness and her ability to talk. So I think, Thunder Rosa going over in this feud ultimately is the best route to take with that. So yeah, that's the most a very intriguing aspect of the women's division right now, and those are two stars of the women's division that you can't deny. And I feel that that'll play more into. I'm more intrigued to see where it's gonna go ultimately after like Hikaru Shida works her feud with Abaddon, and then where all this kind of leads to at some point in time with the AEW women's title, because so much of the focus, and I know neither it's Serena, but so much of the focus just really seems to be on the NWA women's title more so than the AEW women's title. Did you get that vibe? I mean, I kind of do.
Yes. The NWA women's title seems more prestigious right now. And this might just be perception. It's because of who's holding it. And you've given me a very nice transition opportunity here. Because the person who's holding it now, I mean, before it was Thunder Rosa, who's just elevated everybody and made the women's division really pop. But now it's being held by the other young lady who's been making the women's division pop, and that's Serena Deeb. Dominic, she's got it, man. She snaps in to her lockup, even just the way that she snapped into the initial lockup. I can't remember if it was against Evilise or her partner, but she snapped into that lockup like it reminded me of Bret Hart. Like she really snapped the hell into that thing. And dude, just unbelievable worker. Maybe not the best on the mic. She doesn't have to be. Bret Hart was not the best on the mic, but that's who I think of the whole time I'm watching her wrestle. Is like she is the female Bret Hart.
Hey, you said it in the draft last week when you drafted her. Yeah, JR, you can tell Rolly loves her and loves the work that she does, and that puts her over hardcore, and rightfully so, because she is a strong. What a signing! How did she just float under the radar for this so long? From maybe it was just more other stuff, maybe personal stuff, but I don't know. I have no idea. But she was in the Straight Edge Society with Punk and all that stuff, and that's where everybody first really saw her, and what a presence she was then, even back then. So, now she's here, and she's one of the best women's wrestlers in the world right now. So
it's unbelievable to me that she could be up in New York for the period of time that she was, because I believe she was also helping train people in the Performance Center, if I'm remembering this correctly.
Yeah, I don't know if you're confusing her with Sarah Del Rey, or
I don't know.
Maybe she was training. I can't remember.
In any case, I don't know how she could be up there around these people who've been in pro wrestling or around pro wrestling their whole lives up there in New York, and nobody's seeing hey, we've really got something here.
I mean, you can kind of see that in WWE because, I mean, look at what has been going on there.
You make a good point. They tend to shit on some of their most talented people.
Like Cesaro, Ricochet, there's a couple of talents up there that might not be getting the best of rubs right now.
I was just going to reference Cesaro. You got out ahead of me. But, Dominic, as I was watching this match, it was a pretty good match. It's the two ladies on the other side, they're good, Diamante and Ivelisse. Diamante, she's got a couple really snug looking shots that caught my attention, but then that you can tell she's still a little bit green. Big Swole is still incredibly green, but Serena Deeb really carried the whole match in my opinion. But as I was watching it, I'm like, a couple things clicked into mind. I'm like, okay, NWA Women's Championship, old school wrestling personality, old school wrestling style. Serena Deeb needs to be paired with FTR. She needs to be the third member of their group.
I like that.
It makes a lot of sense. The NWA connection, the fact that she's got this old school mentality. And I'm not talking about her being some kind of a valet. I'm not talking about her being at ringside with Tully Blanchard as like a sidekick. I'm talking about her being like a member of the Horsemen.
Yes. I agree with you. That's great, man. And could you imagine her coming out for a match and Tully Blanchard's by her side, like doing all that stuff?
Money. It's money.
Money stuff. That's, man. Marcus, I think Tony Khan should maybe get you on the horn a little bit here and there.
Larry Zbyszko.
Yeah, to stand up and fucking present yourself to your fucking figures back there.
While they pump Larry over and over again through the PA system.
Well, but Arn, they're cheering my name. I'm getting heat, Arn.
Yeah, I often wish that Tony Khan listened to this podcast, so maybe he could do a couple of things, but never more than this moment. I feel like that's probably the best advice that I could give so far is please pair her with FTR. It just makes sense.
I like it. I do like it. I cannot argue with that whatsoever.
It also makes sense because if down the road they're able to get Tessa Blanchard, which I don't even know what the status of
the interest. The reported thing is there's no interest in her, but Meltzer reported that they are aware of her talent and aware of what she can bring to the product itself. But I think that the outside stuff of the comments that she's made in the past that were reported and everything like that might be playing a factor, and maybe.
If she said the things that she's reported to have said, I don't want to see her in wrestling ever again, no matter how talented she is. If she didn't say it, just imagine her, Serena Deeb, and FTR all in a group together with her dad. That's compelling stuff.
I'm with you though. I think that really presents a super cool new way to get a faction over is an old school faction, unless you're mixing the modern aspect of women mixing up with men, not from an in-ring wrestling standpoint, but you're having that faction, that dynamic change in a little bit of a way where it's not like a young guy positioned with a tag team positioned with an established star. It's a different iteration of that. And I think that's a pretty neat way to do it.
If you bring Serena in, she's one of the boys. And that's how you would treat it. So I hope that they do it. Regardless, Serena Deeb, unbelievably talented.
Very good.
Very, very happy that she's on my roster.
Let me say to this match, I thought it was cool. Anita, I'm with you with Big Swole being green and everything like that, and a lot of stuff maybe from the in-ring perspective needs to be worked on.
Great look, though. Great look, great presence. I like her new finisher and the connection to Dean Malenko. I think that was a really, really solid tie to do. And that Lion Tamer-esque cloverleaf, pretty damn cool. It looked nasty. She's got all the potential in the world. I think she needs a little more time in the power plant.
The AEW power plant.
All right, what's next? How about this, Dominic? Cody Rhodes against Angelico. What did you feel about this match?
I loved it. I really like this match. I feel, and I tweeted this out, and nobody liked it, but that's okay. Some good tweets just go unanswered. I said I liked the presentation of how they started it with the arm wrench chess game, where it was like that was a major part of the story of starting it all off, was them going back and forth and outworking one another's arm wrench, and Angelico playing such a cocky dude, escaping out of it and like looking like, hey, look, I know this shit. Like I know this kind of shit too. And I think with every Cody match, there's some sort of little story in it, almost to my Justified point, in a different way, is that like you have an overarching story in the match or the angle, but within the match, there's another little stories going on too. And
that's the cool thing about Cody, man. You're right. Is he's able to. Again, I'll reference Bret Hart. It reminds me of Bret Hart, where every match he's got an angle with it. And the angle in this one was, okay, Angelico is very technically sound. Can Cody get the better of him?
Yeah.
And let me say, man, Cody makes everybody look like $1 million, but Angelico really, really stood out here. He's one of those guys who I've kind of ignored and I'll admit dismissed up to this point. But watching him against Cody, it was a really good match, and he was doing some stuff that I don't recall having seen in pro wrestling before. So right after that moment that you referenced where Cody had him down, but he got out of it and he was just like kind of laid back, he got in a position like it was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu where he was trying to kick.
Like, come at me.
The ground. Yeah, and he was like kind of kicking from the ground. I was like, that is very interesting.
Very MMA, like too, yeah.
Yeah, it was like, I've never seen anybody do that in a ring before. I like Jack Evans. I like Angelico. I don't like them together.
I like them like as a tag team, but ultimately I'm with you. Like I think they should be on their own.
I would like to see Angelico almost like a Psychosis character. I say put a mask on him, put him under a hood, and let him work as a singles wrestler, perhaps in a cruiserweight division.
Yet again, the fucking reference comes every fucking week.
I'm gonna squeeze it in once a week until Tony Khan hears me.
Hey, Terry Funk would appreciate that. He's the one that came up with all that. So
came up with what?
The cruiserweight. He was the one that wanted. I think he came up with the term cruiserweight, and then what he ultimately wanted was he wanted the matches for cruiserweights to just have a 1 count instead of like a 3 count. And so,
I mean, that's an interesting thing. I think, especially because as Jarrett would say, all the cruiserweights are as quick as a hiccup.
Yep.
And I know that you are concerned that they'll be stuck in that cruiserweight thing, but it doesn't have to be that way. It can be like, it's almost like it's
not only that though, Marcus. Not only that, but I'm also concerned with there being an overabundance of singles titles too, whether it's specific to a weight division or not.
Well, I feel like I always reference WCW. The only one that was superfluous, unfortunately, because I love the title. The only superfluous.
You don't want me to try to do it, obviously.
Superfluous. The only superfluous title, in my opinion, unfortunately, was the television title during the era when you and I were watching, because they had the United States title, which is kind of like their Intercontinental, and they had the World title. They had tag team titles, women's title, and then they had the Cruiserweight title. And to me, the Cruiserweight title is fine. I think that should be it for singles titles. At least for men. Maybe they could do another one for women down the road, but I think that should be it for singles titles. But I love the idea of these young, quick, high-flying guys competing in singles action for a Cruiserweight championship. I think it could be super interesting. And man, just think of the match combinations.
You talk about each week, but I think as each week progresses, you more and more convince me to your side about having it, even despite like how the weight is not a super duper factor in like how we view stars nowadays. So but and I get it.
I don't think it should be relegated to any specific weight. It's just the title. That's just what they're calling it. They're just cruiserweights.
Yeah. As long as it's not like the X division, like where it's like X division's just open. Like there was no description. I remember Wade Keller from PW Torch doing an interview with Dixie Carter, and he flat out asked her, so explain to me what the X Division title or the X Division's all about. Can you tell me? She couldn't give him an answer. Like she didn't know.
I mean, in my opinion, if they do a cruiserweight title, I wouldn't mind seeing like you do an initial tournament to crown the first cruiserweight champion. I would love to see Chris Jericho say, "Hey, I was WCW cruiserweight champion. I want to be the first ever AEW cruiserweight champion."
Yeah, and he goes down, cuts weight, does all that shit. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Put him in the tournament. So like again, there's just so many angles.
Him opening match against Hoovy. You said Hoovy wants to get back into the thing.
Sure, Hoovy. But Hoovy loses because I don't think he could have a sustained career anywhere. This would be a one-off. You know who else would be cool in that tournament? Maybe on the other side of the bracket is RVD. So there's just so many different. You could do like a bunch of surprise entrants, mystery opponents. Like there's so many things that you could do just with the tournament. Not even with the title down the road. Just the tournament to crown the first champion. There's so many cool things that you could do. Why piss around with it? Just make it happen. So I hope that they do it. Another thing, Dominic, that I wanted to mention, so they do the whole Powerhouse Hobbs and Taz, and Team Taz comes out afterwards. Taz's son looking like a badass, as you mentioned.
Just that fact, you have those guys up front on the stage, and I see like Hook just standing there. It's like that's all he needs to do right now. That's all he needs to do. It's like perfect. It's like he was like, dude, that's like a kid I wouldn't want to fuck with.
He looks like he could stretch you. He really does. I thought that it was fun. It was like Sting came out, and I did kind of laugh just in the Sting came out for an intimidation, like the snow's falling, and then it was like, okay, and then he just like leaves. And that was like,
that's all I got today this week.
Like, the bank is about to close. I gotta cash this check. But one of the things that really stood out for me during that was actually Powerhouse Hobbs, because Sting came out with the bat, and before Powerhouse Hobbs, again, he used psychology, where it's like Sting came out with the bat before and everybody scattered, but this time Sting came out with a baseball bat, and Powerhouse Hobbs was like he was ready to come at him. He acted like he wasn't afraid of him, and why should he be? The numbers are on his side as far as dudes that were on the stage at that point. He's a massive guy, so he sold it like, okay, you want a piece of me, I'll come at you, and then his buddies held him back, which is the exact right way to do it.
Yeah, and plus he's like he's like the heavy. He's the big heavy of the group, like him and Cage, but like the Hobbs is the up and comer kind of thing, so it's like it's a good way to do it. Like he wants to bite out of crime right there with Sting. And
if you're the size of Powerhouse Hobbs and all your buddies are standing behind you, I mean, Sting could come out with a chainsaw and you'd probably still be like, I'll take that thing away from you, old man.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. No, I liked Ricky Starks' little promo about like what was it? Oh, Cody being a daddy, and like he's like, hey, we were your guys' daddies last week. That kind of thing.
Yes, we made you our sons last week. Nobody thanked us.
This is pretty cool. That whole presence again. Team Taz is the fucking best faction going right now in wrestling, and like, and it's because of like that, the contrast of personalities and physiques, and just like it all meshing together still somehow and making it make sense.
I mean, you can't get more unique than having an established big old jacked up star like Brian Cage. You pair him with like the mouthy, smaller heel like Ricky Starks. You got Powerhouse Hobbs, who's big, brooding, just brood of a guy. Then you've got Hook in the background just standing there like a savage.
Staring daggers into whoever.
Right. And then, of course, Taz, who's to this day one of the best on the mic. And, if any of you younger listeners, if you haven't seen what Taz was doing in ECW, or most especially, in my opinion, his debut with WWF, they screwed him up after that. But when he first debuted with WWE, like one of the craziest, best debuts I have ever seen in my entire life.
Absolutely.
Taz is tremendous.
Yeah. Oh man, Taz is great. Can't beat him.
Absolutely. And Dominic, we're almost at the end here. I just want to discuss one more thing, and then we can do the draft or discuss whatever you're in the mood to. But let's talk about this Dark Order tag team match at the start of the show. Dom, the Dark Order, at the very least, are 100% confirmed baby faces at this point, right? They're just coming out being silly. At one point, there was a pinning situation against Hangman Page, and instead of interfering like heels would, like to kick the opponent off of Hangman Page, they were like rooting him on from the apron. And it's like, okay, that's baby
So
face.
maybe we should specify though. So I would say it's not Dark Order are total baby faces. I would say Silver and Reynolds are total baby faces.
Then what are they doing pairing up with heels?
What do you mean? You mean as a Dark Order? I think that's kind of happened before, where you've had baby faces in a heelish faction kind of thing. I think that dynamic's been there before.
Yes, I mean, at this point, how about Colt Cabana, Silver, and I'm sorry, his partner just keeps escaping me.
Alex Reynolds.
And Alex Reynolds. How about Colt Cabana, Silver, and Reynolds just form their own thing then, and they can just be this goofy, fun side stable.
Yeah, I mean, well, Marcus, that's to my point last week. Maybe we can talk about that here in a second. Well, I'll just talk about it now, where it's like Hangman, is kind of being, swayed by their goofiness almost, and like, their willingness to want to work with him and everything. Maybe he pulls them away from the Dark Order, and then you have that whole thing, because you also have to think about that fiery ass promo that Dustin did tonight against like Evil Uno and the rest of the Dark Order, where he's like, I'm going to take you out one by one. Which awesome fucking promo, by the way. He did it like in less than a minute, and it was like boom, automatically punches you in the face and punches Dark Order in the face, sets it up like, I'm going to find, like, just like a guy you want to root for, a seasoned vet, an established vet, going after this like faction that is ultimately heelish. But Silver and Reynolds are, I think, a little bit of a different likable bird in that one.
Yeah, and, I'll be interested to see where it goes. And normally, Dominic, I think I would be okay with the whole, like, okay, we're just going to have, like, a silly, fun tag team here, and that's fine. They're just gonna be a silly, fun thing that's on the show. Thing is, where I take issue is that I see more in John Silver. I really do, because not only is he just this little jacked up dude, but he's pretty good in the ring. So like I can see him as like again, like let's talk about him as a serious singles wrestler. I talk about this every week. I could see him being a real star as a result of being serious and working as a singles.
I'm with you for sure. Also though, I think that's kind of what brought him to the dance, though, is his ability to be funny and get over. Like, if he was just a serious, like, athletic person, he's and with not a whole lot of personality, I think it would not make him stand out as much. So I think him being able to do this and have that part, as long as you don't go too far where you put him in like an R-Truth kind of position where he's goofy completely all the time, and like that plays into the matches that he has. Like, the thing about Silver is he wrestles and he looks credible, and I don't think he loses in uncredible ways. So I think as long as you have that present who he is right now, with the aspect of him looking credible in the ring and not losing in ridiculous like jabroni fashion, I think you're okay. And I think that's the lane you want to stick with for now, because I think the thing is, we criticize with AEW all the time, is they're jumping from thing to thing too quickly. And I think that ultimately that's a big problem in wrestling altogether, is like they're concerned for immediacy and making things, oh, let's get to this point already, let's jump here. And this is a criticism for you, Marcus, is you want to do that right away with a lot of things. It seems like, okay, I see this person, I like him here, I think you'd be great in this spot. Where I think there needs to be some build to that. And in John Silver's case, I think this is one of those cases where down the road, as he's established himself, this capability that people like about him and that he gets across to a worldwide audience, if he establishes that, later on you can make him the steely-eyed, badass ass kicker that maybe has a little bit of that personality, but also is more serious.
Here's my concern and the problem with it is that, so when it came to, like, let's say Kurt Angle, for example. Kurt Angle had some hilarious, silly moments in WWE, and it was a blast. He came out with a stupid milk cannon. He's wearing a tiny cowboy hat. Like, we could go on and on.
He was great at it. He was great.
He was tremendous at it.
Yeah.
And he was also recognized as a very good, incredible worker. Thing is that first he was established as a very good, incredible worker, and then they started doing fun, silly things. To me, I feel like a guy like John Silver, all of a sudden, I don't want to see him paint himself into this silly corner. And then when he tries to be serious, people spit it back out. I just wish that he would have come out in the first place as incredibly serious, get over his work rate. And then if you want to spread in a couple silly things here and there, as they did with Kurt Angle, fine, because he is funny. He does crack me up at times. But like, I don't want him to be a comedy act in wrestling. I think there's more to it.
I agree. No, ultimately, I don't want him to be a comedy act either. And I think that would be, again, to what we said about the Dark Order in general, is like they're very comedy. If you watch BTE, they're very comedy. And like some of them are very good at it. But it's also like, you know, how much does that push back against what people are seeing, you know, on TNT and certain things like that? And how much is that like destroying or hurting some of that aspect of what you want as a heel faction? So no, I get you. The match itself, I really loved. I thought it was a great opener. I thought the dynamic between Hangman and as the reluctant yet go along to get along kind of thing with the Reynolds and Silver, I thought was really well played. I was not a fan of the Howdy Doody costume starting off. Like I thought that was just that did not vibe with me, even if it was just Silver and Reynolds. Hats. But yeah,
they're selling the hats to the fans. You saw the fan wearing the same hat in the crowd as they were wearing. So that tells me that they started selling them at merch stands.
I don't know. Maybe who knows? Or maybe they had an extra one. I don't know. But no, that aspect I wasn't a big fan of. But once you took all that away, like and that kind of thing, I feel there's some traction going on. And now to Page's point, though, at the end, he almost again was almost like forgotten about. It seemed at the end of the match, like you had. Oh my gosh, why am I drawing a blank on who they were fighting? Who are they fighting?
I'm drawing a blank too. That kind of speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Doesn't it really? Who the heck was it? It's somebody.
I do not. I do not recall.
Hold on, I got the results right here. Why was this difficult? Oh, geez, Hardy Party.
Oh, that's right. Well, there you go.
So, like that became more of a focus of Matt's underhanded tactics at the end, where he stole the win from Quinn and Cassidy. And then like Hangman just kind of looked on, and then that was it. I just feel like Hangman is a star, and you gotta really, really push that part home. Like, make him interact. If you're gonna have him interact with Silver and Reynolds, make sure you keep that line of him being that top star in the mix there. Because it just seemed like he was kind of dismissed at the end, because all the focus. I know they're building this story with Hardy and Private Party and stuff like that, but all the focus went to them and away from that dynamic, which honestly right now I feel the dynamic between Dark Order and Hangman is more intriguing than Hardy Party. What's going on there? Because we know where the Hardy Party thing's going to go. So
every time I see Hangman, I get a little bit more frustrated, and it's not because of him necessarily. It's because I could see him being a major star, like a Stone Cold level star, because he's got a great look. He's excellent in the ring. He's great on the mic. Like, he has every single tool that you need if you just treat him correctly. And they're not, like, they're really dropping the ball on him. And I'm not overblowing this by any means. I really think that Hangman Page could be one of the biggest wrestling stars on the face of the planet if they treated him with our Stan Hansen rule. If you treat him with the Stan Hansen rule, he could be a massive star.
That Dean Martin angle you pitched with Rio Bravo, just perfect. Like, it was a perfect way to, boom, get him away. Like, not totally get him away from drinking, because that was a cool aspect, but ultimately, like, he beats that demon. And, bam, you have him on the hot track of, like, of running the table on people. I really think I'm with you. I want to see what I ultimately like to see. And you know what? This might be the way to go. You have Kenny hold on to this title for a long, long time, I feel. You have him go on that run. But who tops him is Hangman at the end game of all this. you know.
I mean, Kenny's got 2 wins over Hangman now, with world title implications. So it's I think it's time to let him get over. Or actually, I guess it was Jericho the first time for a world title, but you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying. No, I felt that too, though. Like, it almost felt like he lost to Kenny twice in certain ways.
Yes. So I'm just super frustrated by it. Like,
I'm not totally frustrated, but I am frustrated. Like, I'm getting, I think I like the dynamic between him and Silver and Reynolds a little bit more than you do, but
he should be like Clint Eastwood.
talk up.
Sorry, he should be like Clint Eastwood, like the man with no name, on his own, doesn't need anybody, doesn't need any partners. Like, he shouldn't be partnering up with goofs. So that's what I find frustrating.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but I mean, I feel they can make it work if they find the right lane. I think they're kind of getting there. I think this week was a step in the right direction, minus the howdy doody stuff. But I think they're starting to show a little bit of chemistry between the three, and like, people are liking. Like, did you hear too? The crowd was chanting John, like, during that whole thing. So, yeah, I mean, Silver and Reynolds are baby faces. I mean, I don't think that's a stretch at all. So,
well, let's see if you can get in the right lane, Dom, when it comes to the AEW draft. You ready?
yes, I am ready. Let's say congratulations to Cody and Brandy there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome news. As a new father, it means quite a lot more when you see somebody else is getting ready to have a kid.
How does that feel? I'm interested to, like, now that you see stuff like that getting revealed, like, now that you are a dad, well, what is that dynamic kind of like to see?
Yeah, it's I just know what my daughter means to me and has meant to my life, and how she's changed my life in so many ways. Like, how different, my wife and I, we've been together for quite a long time, even before we got married. So we had a very real rhythm and routine to our life. And that's not the case anymore. We're only just beginning to get into a rhythm with her, and then it suddenly changes again, and it just keeps happening where, like, all of a sudden our routine is different this week than it was last week. So it's very interesting. Especially, I think it'll especially be interesting for two people who are on national television as often as these two are, who have busy schedules like these two do. So I cannot imagine being in the position that they're in and saying, like, hey, by the way, we got to have this kid as well. It's like, man, you guys have got a lot of plates spinning. But certainly there's more good to it than bad, of course. So I'm very happy for them.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. How many? There's going to be quite the streak of. It's going to almost be like a next baby boomer thing. Is like the COVID pandemic, kids coming. The COVID kids happening.
That is what they say. For the record, I think, actually, maybe not. I was going to say, I believe that my wife and I got pregnant before the pandemic, but I think that COVID had just become a thing at the time. So never mind.
Yeah. Wow. How about that? It's not going to be okay boomer. It's going to be okay COVID, right?
Okay, COVID kid.
Okay, COVID Carl.
All right, we're jumping the shark. Let's get to the draft.
Was there anything else we need to get to before the draft? Was there anything else that really, really stood out?
I think we covered every segment. Do we want to do our MVPs and rating right now?
Yeah, do we want to knock it? We should knock that out first. Yeah, let's knock it out. What's your Marcus's Meltzer rating here?
I'm going to give it a 5.1. It was just kind of like right down the middle for me. There was really nothing all that outstanding about it. Which maybe isn't the worst thing. As I've been telling you before, Dominic, it's what's been missing from wrestling is to leave the big matches for pay-per-view or leave them for major events. And there were no like monster matches on this, and I think that that's okay. Like I think they did fine with what they had. There was just nothing that like really knocked your socks off.
I really liked the show. Ultimately, I thought it was, to your point. Yes, I feel, not nothing like super duper crazy to write home about, but I feel the pacing of this week in comparison to the week before was much more well done. It wasn't like you were getting hit left and right with everything, and you had to like kind of like, try to retain certain aspects of things. I mean, it was still like there's still a lot of stuff happening, but I feel like it was just paced better, and I feel the matches themselves told really good stories throughout it. We didn't even mention like Chris Jericho tying up with Brian Pillman Jr. in that little story going into a multi-man tag match, which, is a big criticism of those multi-tag matches, is like you don't get storytelling into that so many times. And this one had it, like, with that stuff. And then, like, plenty of other, like, little like things, the rap battle between Kaz and Max Caster. You had just a lot of cool stuff that really added, I feel, to some of the matches and the progression of the show.
The promo by Dustin, Serena Deeb just on as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. There were FTR made a little run in at the
booth. Like a hot mic kind of thing going down, and that aspect, and then running down Jurassic Express and that kind of thing. I think it set it up, for the shows coming. It's going to be interesting with those shows coming, the New Year's Bash and the Holiday Bash and that kind of thing. I'm very curious to how much they're going to put on those shows. And like, obviously we have some of the card with like the Acclaim going with the Young Bucks coming up, and Kenny defending his title against Ray Phoenix on like I want to say it's the January 6th one. No, maybe it's the one before, the December 30th. But like, so there's some matches set up, but I'm really curious about how heavy they're going to be hitting, coming within these coming weeks with people busy with the holidays. But it's also like, pandemic, a lot of maybe some downtime for some folks and stuff like that. And none of them are necessarily taking place on a holiday. So it's going to be interesting, I feel, how it comes down to the road.
No doubt about it. I'm excited to see how things play out. But I mean, good episode. Nothing great, nothing outstanding, but a good, solid episode of AEW Dynamite.
Yeah. Who's your MVP?
Serena Deeb. Didn't take much for her to really, truly stand out. I know I believe she's been my MVP before. Actually, I don't know if she has, but
I can't remember.
She just jumps off the screen as far as her abilities are concerned. I love Serena Deeb. Certainly in my top 5 AEW stars as of right now.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what?
And by the way, Thunder Rose is in my top 5 too. So that really tells you where the direction that we're moving in wrestling. When I can say like, hey, 2 of my top 5 professional wrestlers in AEW right now, female.
It speaks to it a lot, and because I just remember too, like, you go back, let's say 6 years even, and wrestling is a very different dynamic. Like that's before like Bayley and Sasha Banks really started catching fire in NXT. Charlotte was just showing up too. And then like, somebody that really stood out, obviously making those points was like Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch, like, them being the stars for WWE. And now like you have these super standout talents in Thunder Rosa and Serena Deeb, like coming in. And then, Britt Baker's in that mix too. You have Layla Hirsch. Like, I think that's going to be, once momentum starts picking up with her and she becomes more established, I think she's going to be somebody big. So, I mean, it really does speak to that. Like, I look forward to seeing people, like, I look forward to seeing Thunder Rosa each and every week. I look forward to seeing Serena each and every week. I think it really speaks to that. It's a very interesting thing about wrestling nowadays, is that having women more of a factor than what they have been,
Absolutely. I even just said Abaddon. She's another great example of something unique that we're not seeing elsewhere in wrestling. So yeah, really a fun time to be a wrestling fan.
Yeah. My MVPs, the Acclaimed. I'm going with them. I think they really packed a punch. I feel they really stood out as a star tag team, even in just their promo abilities. One concern we didn't talk about, and maybe we can touch about this real quick, is Max Caster and his obvious comparisons to like 2003 Chain Gang John Cena. How much of a concern is that for you?
It's not. If you think about it, 2003 was 17 years ago. So I don't see any issue with a guy coming out who's got a similar style gimmick, just as long as he establishes himself as different, which thus far I think he has.
Okay. No, I was interested. I wanted to get your thoughts on that. But yeah, I think Anthony Bowens and Max Caster, they're my MVPs, rightfully so this week. In comparison to your fucking give a dog a bone here the other like that one week where he wasn't even on. Jeez.
How dare you?
Mm-hmm. All right, Marcus. I think I'm hearing some sort of music on only social media platform because we can't do this on YouTube. But you hear it? Oh, yes, I do. It is round 3 of the AEW Draft, and wow, what a previous set of drafts we have. Marcus, we had a poll that you've been requesting for a couple weeks now. And finally, my design skills and my polling skills finally met. The stars aligned, and then I presented this to the massive audience of WrestleZone Twitter. And the poll results, they happened, and the people have spoken. Marcus, what were the results of so far?
Well, Dominic, so far I'm kicking your ass.
Did you have the numbers up there?
I don't have them pulled up. But I last we checked, I believe I was at 70 and you were at something like 29. So you didn't even make it to 30, even though I only had 70.
Well, see, I think something that we really need to factor in is that Twitter only takes up 20% of the population of the world. So, and a lot of the time people bitch and moan on Twitter, and there's a lot of that negativity going on. And I feel negativity leads to blindness and cloudiness. So therefore,
I'm really not interested in your excuses right now,
this
Dominic.
is not
you
excuse.
lost.
I'm just Marcus, as a media person, I feel it's my obligation to tell you what is going on here exactly. And not everything might be up to snuff, so to speak.
Well, Dominic, you lost. You're losing the draft.
That's like your opinion, man, and that's like maybe some of Twitter's opinion. That's not Wrestling World's opinion. I think I'm in a very good spot right now. But guess what, Marcus? This week you get to pick first. So,
and I think this is going to be almost like a nail in the coffin week for you, Dominic, because things are about to be not great for you over there. Because you came out last week. You had a pretty good week. You came out and you.
I think I won last week. I mean, let's not. I think I.
Who were your picks last week?
So I started off with MJF, then I picked Sting, and then I closed out with the Young Bucks.
I mean, MJF, the Young Bucks, the big stars. You did steal one from me with Sting, a legacy talent. But, Dominic, you left a little something on the table.
Who was yours again in that second round?
I don't remember. I don't have it pulled up right now.
Well, how about that, then? I'll help you. I'll help you a little bit. It was FTR was your first one. Second one, who was it?
I know I got Serena Deeb. Who else did I get? Oh, I got Darby Allin and Serena Deeb.
So
yeah, did really well. But Dominic, it irked me. It irked me that you got Sting last week. You got a great legacy talent. So I'm taking another legacy talent from my roster. Dominic, my first pick this time around is going to be the natural Dustin Rhodes.
It stings. It stings to hear that. And no pun intended. But yes, it stings. Dustin's one of my favorite wrestlers. And obviously I would love to have him on my team. That's that's a tough one. But I don't think you put the nail in the coffin, my friend. I feel that I have a lot of juice left in me and a lot of juice to give. Freshly squeezed juice, let's say. So therefore, I am going with the Enigma. And somebody, once a live crowd gets back, is going to be super duper over and already has been an established star. I am going with Orange Cassidy, my friend.
Well, Dominic, I almost took Orange Cassidy just because I knew that he was going to be on your short list.
Marcus, I was super concerned you were going to do that.
I almost, how I feel about Orange Cassidy. I'm not as big a fan of him as you are, but I almost took him just to keep him away from you. But
Hey, Marcus, you would have got a stone cold motherfucker out of me if you if you drafted.
but I'm glad that I got Dustin, and also you taking Orange Cassidy. I got to say, it opened the door. Open that door.
Here's the door. It's right here again. I think I'm hearing something.
Wide open. And I couldn't be more thrilled to add this man to my roster. He is the best promo in professional wrestling today. I'm taking Eddie Kingston.
Damn it. Damn.
Yes.
Damn. Son of a bitch.
That's right, Dominic. Eddie Kingston is my second selection this week.
Well, very upsetting because he was very likely my next pick. So, but you know what? That leaves. I hear another door creaking open, and I'm seeing two guys walk into my team, and I'm welcoming them with open arms. Open arms. They tend to be men of the streets, as well as an established tag team that has plenty of upswing that I think we have yet to see in AEW still. I'm going with people that you would love Eddie Kingston to pair up with. I'm going with Santana and Ortiz for my second tag team of the AEW draft.
Not bad at all. I think they have a high ceiling that they haven't quite realized yet. So it's a good selection. And Dominic, I've got one final selection for this week, and I'm pretty happy I landed this guy as well, because I am a big fan of his. He reminds me of quite a few people. Probably nobody more than the Dynamite Kid, just based on his in-ring abilities. You know exactly who I'm taking, Dominic. It's the bastard.
Fuck! Damn it!
Suck on that, Dominic.
Oh, that's all right. All right, then. You know what? This is what I'm going to do. I have the next two picks. This is the last pick for this week. So, my options are still here. So what I'm going to do is right now I'm going to add somebody who hasn't been drafted, but probably should have been drafted at this point. I'm going to go with another woman in the women's division and take
a woman
and take the doctors in Pittsburgh's very own. I am taking Britt Baker.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good selection. Certainly a good selection with Britt Baker. Can't argue it. But I got to say, Dominic, I think that I won this round.
I don't know. Subject to opinion. And, let's be honest here. If we're just going by Twitter, Reddit, any of these platforms, I don't think you can really convey that. I don't think there's... Would Harley Race have Twitter, Marcus? No, I don't think he would. Would Stan Hansen have Twitter? No, none of these people. Marcus, Terry Funk is on Twitter, but Terry Funk isn't tweeting, okay?
Dominic, do you know, have you ever heard of a control group?
Yes, I've heard of that. Of course, Marcus, I am a mass media journalist major, okay? I'm well aware of control groups, focus groups. I'm fucking aware of the Orson Welles, the whatever that shit was called.
Well, that's what Twitter is acting as here, Dominic. It's a small group of people acting as the whole of people. A small group of people representing the whole of people. Just like it is with Nielsen ratings, just like it is with a focus group. And that's what we're getting here. So the focus group is saying, I'm kicking your ass.
I think you're fucked. Ultimately, Marcus, you're fucked. Listen,
let's find out. Post this week as a poll. Just the week as a standalone.
Just this week, we can do it. I'm totally fine with that.
And let's see who had a better week.
Okay, don't sing it. Bring it. You're all bluff. No fucking stuff, okay? Do your Larry Zbyszko salute to your figures back there, and then get your ass a stepping.
All right. Well, hey, get stepping. A famous phrase of Dustin, who's on my team.
Asshole son of a bitch.
Oh, Dominic, I got both the Blood Brothers. Both the Blood Brothers.
I know you do. Hey, listen, but I got the dream, and I'm living the dream, Daddy. American dream, Dustin Rhodes. You know what? It's fine. We'll be okay.
You're getting punchy. Let's wrap this thing up.
Okay. Hey, how do they follow you on Twitter, host? who should be doing this?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter, the winner of the AEW Dynamite Draft.
Wow.
You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus P. D'Angelo. Dominic, how do they follow you on Twitter? If anybody feels like being bored.
Excuse me? Listen, I full of thoughtful, engaging, humorous. I'm a 5-tool player on.
I think you have over 10 times followers that I have. So go ahead.
You can follow me on Twitter at Dominic D'Angelo. And you can follow WrestleZone on Twitter at WrestleZone.com. Plus, Marcus, where do they go for all their wrestling news needs?
That would be WrestleZone.com.
Mm-hmm. Listen, I just interviewed Kevin Koo of MLW. Violence is Forever, tagging with Dominic Guarini. They had their debut a week ago from this podcast and in MLW, and they're a bunch of badasses. And what was cool about Kevin Koo is he was like, man, he's like, I remember going on when I was first allowed to go on the internet. He was like, I remember WrestleZone being there. So, the legacy continues, and, I'm happy to be part of that legacy here. So, who did I interview also within this past week? Well, the last Friday at this point, or Thursday, excuse me, was none other than who we mentioned earlier, Rob Van Dam. Talked to him for about over an hour about RVD CBD, about Headstrong, about his concern with concussions and mental wellness. And we talked about his dogs. We talked about Mafia history, all that stuff. Really, really great conversation. He addresses free agency and how he's living life right now as is, and very, very good conversation.
The whole effing show. And Dominic, did he don't give anything away, but did you ask him about the possibility of joining Dynamite, AEW rather?
I just asked him about free agency and what his wrestling situation was like. So right. I will not give anything away to that. Listen to the episode. We do talk Impact and we do talk Dynamite. So and we talk Territory Days too. I also bought, Marcus, this is going to be news to you, as I bought some of that RVD CBD. So it should be pretty awesome. I bought some of the flower. It has no HTC in it, which is the marijuana aspect that gets you high in it.
Yeah, of course. It doesn't get you high. It's like medicine. It's medicinal purposes. Helps with anxiety, helps you relax.
Yeah. I figured, I want to give it a try and see how it's like. So I am looking forward to getting that in there. So otherwise, I interviewed who else is I do want to plug this again, is Meet the Wrestler with Barrett Brown. New show we got going on. The WrestleZone is more like Meet the Press, where it's almost like a job interview for independent wrestlers, where they kind of give them their whole aspect of who they are and what they, what their wrestling philosophy is, all that kind of thing. I really want to make that stand out. I got a couple of independent stars lined up for future episodes here. So if you're a wrestler or you're a fan and you feel like there's an independent talent that should be on a show like this, where they can kind of showcase themselves, send me a DM or send me an email, dpdangelo@gmail.com. I'm more than happy to listen to anybody that wants to give some input on who should be on the show, because I think it's a platform that many of them need.
I have one I'd like to hear, Dominic.
Okay.
It's a gentleman that you and I got to see wrestle live not all that long ago. Guy, he does a lot of traveling. Stock is up. I like him. Beastman.
Interesting. Yeah. No, he's been out and about, I think. Yeah, he's a traveler too. He goes around. So
yeah, he's been all over the place. He and I follow each other on the Twitter, and I like him, man. I'd like to hear what he has to say. Have you
corresponded with him?
Not really. I think we've just liked a couple of each other's tweets, and that's really it. So get in there and talk to him, Dominic.
Marcus, how many wrestlers follow you on Twitter at this point?
I want to say like 6 or 7.
Hey, that's pretty good for boy, that's a percentage too. If there's like 6 or 7, that's like maybe 10% of your followers, right?
It's about 10% of my followers right now. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. A couple of high profile ones too.
How about that? Yeah. All right. Hey, I've been meaning to say this too. Our theme for the podcast, if you're listening through the podcast, is I I can't remember the name of the song right now, but it's by Brad Sucks. And he's been a theme for us on our previous podcast. And then we did a podcast, wrestling podcast, almost 10 years ago at this point, where he was the intro to our podcast too. So he was gracious enough to let us use his music for this podcast. So you can check him out at Bandcamp. I think it's to do a Bandcamp thing. I think you type in the artist's name. So bradsucks.bandcamp.com. And I think that'll take you to you can buy his albums. You can buy individual songs. Really good stuff. The guys does a really good job, and from up north. So there you go.
And let me just say before we sign off, we do appreciate all you guys listening to us every week, downloading the podcast. Give us a review on whatever thing you download the podcast from, SoundCloud, I guess. Give us a review if you get the opportunity. But more than anything, thank you. We really appreciate you guys.
Yeah, heck, you know what? Even if we don't hear from people, it's really cool to see how many people listen, and how many people tune in. And, I hope we're giving you some content that's, knowledgeable and somewhat maybe not newsworthy, but just engaging enough to, keep tabs on. So.
And guys, if you want to share an opinion, if you want us to talk about a particular subject, if you want to call us assholes, go ahead and
Marcus is a clear-cut asshole. So
absolutely acknowledged. I pride myself on it. So go ahead and you can shoot us a DM. You can shoot the podcast a DM on.
Are
Twitter,
your DMs open, Marcus?
Oh, those DMs are wide open, wow. Dominic. You can the podcast Twitter. Do we plug that? It's at 2 Dynamite Dudes.
Oh yeah, geez, yeah.
So you can shoot a DM there. We would love to hear from our listeners, and let's interact. Let's we want to hear what you have to say, and we want to talk about what you want to hear.
And if there's something you would like to see or hear on this podcast too, don't be afraid to let us know. If you want,
that's what I just fucking said, Dominic.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
My God.
Well,
go to bed.
Yeah, it is almost 10 o'clock, isn't it?
It's a little after 10.
All right. Hey, you know what, guys? We'll see you next week. How's that sound?
Thanks for tuning in, guys.